You wake up 10,000 years ago. Half a day east, past the ridge, there is a spring that bites. The water comes up moving. It's cloudy at the mouth and it prickles on the tongue, and drinking it is less like drinking than like being told something. Everyone knows about it. Everyone walks out there, and Podrick's village sits closer to it than yours does, which they have never once mentioned and never once stopped mentioning. So you carry it home. You have carried it home in a gourd, in a skin, in a sealed clay jar packed in wet moss, at a run, at night when it's cold. It arrives as water, flat, obedient, ordinary water, nothing wrong with it at all, and you cannot tell anyone what was lost, because by the time you get here there's nothing to show them, which means the thing you want was never the water. It's whatever was leaving the whole way home. So you start watching bubbles, which nobody has ever had a reason to do. And the first thing you notice is that the spring isn't the only place they happen. Leave honey and water in a warm pot, and after a few days it goes cloudy and starts to whisper. Put your hand flat over the mouth of it and something pushes back. Hold a coal over it and the coal goes out, quietly, like it was smothered by nothing at all. And the water in that pot prickles. Not like the spring, weaker, and it tastes of the honey going strange, but it is unmistakably the same prickle. So there's something living inside the liquid that comes out of it, and the bite is only what that feels like on the way past. And once you know it's a thing, you know it can be moved. You, being the genius you are, don't even blink. You cover the honey pot with a skin, tie it down, and run a hollow reed from under the skin into a jar of plain river water, the far end of the reed sitting below the waterline. The pot works. The gas has one way out. It goes down the reed and comes up through the water in slow strings of bubbles. The next morning, the river water bites. Turns out you're not the first. A man will do this properly by hanging a bowl of water over the open fermenting vats at the brewery next door to his house and writing down what happens. Joseph Priestley, Leeds, 1767, who gives the process away for free and dies without a penny from it, while everyone else spends the next century getting rich on it. But yours is faint. You can taste it if you're looking for it. The spring doesn't need looking for. The reason is that water will only take so much of this on its own terms. Left alone, it accepts a little and then stops. To get the spring, you have to put in more than water is willing to hold, which means you have to stop asking. You seal the jar so the gas has nowhere to go but in, and you keep making gas. And now the jar becomes the entire problem. Clay weeps. It looks fine and it is not fine. The gas walks out through the wall over 2 days and leaves you the same flat water you've been carrying home for years. Gourd splits along the seam. Skin swells like something being born and then lets go all at once. And the reason you now stand to one side while you work is that the last one took a lamp off the shelf. What survives is round, thick, and has no corners for the pressure to find. A heavy base, a deep punt, walls too thick to be elegant, and a narrow neck, because the smaller the opening, the less area there is for the inside to push on. Every bottle shape you will ever see is a pressure vessel that had to fit in a hand. Then the neck betrays you. A cork creeps. You wire it down and that works, and it works slowly, every stopper fitted and wired one at a time by a person, which means the drink can only be made at the speed of the man doing the wiring. You try the clever one, a bottle with a glass marble sitting loose in the neck and a rubber ring below it. Fill it, turn it over, and the pressure inside shoves the marble up into the ring and seals it with the drink's own strength. It costs nothing to close. Hiram Codd builds it in 1872 and it goes everywhere. It also fails for 2 reasons, one of which you could have predicted. To drink, you push the marble down into the neck, where it rattles around loose, blocking the pour and clunking against your teeth. That's the annoying one. The fatal one is that every child who sees a glass marble sealed inside a bottle understands immediately that there is a glass marble sealed inside a bottle, and the fastest way to it is a rock. You have been destroyed, entirely and cheerfully, by your own customers. What actually wins is stupid and ugly, and nobody has ever once been impressed by it. A little tin disc with a fluted skirt crimped down over the lip, lined with a shaving of cork, used once and thrown on the ground. William Painter, 1892. It is the least interesting object in this entire script, and it is the reason the drink can leave the room. Now you have water that bites, in something that holds, and you can put it in a hand 4 valleys from here, and it's water. Nobody walks 4 valleys for water. The sweetening you already have, and you find the rest of it by ruining some. Honey left too long over the fire goes dark and stops being honey. It turns bitter at the edge and deep in the middle and smells like something that has been somewhere. That ruined pot is the color of the drink and the whole bottom of it. Then you need the top, and the top is a trick. You cut a lime in and the juice is thin and sour and mostly disappears. But the smell, the part that arrives before you drink, isn't in the juice at all. It's in the peel, in the oil that sprays out when you bend the rind and catches the light. So you stop squeezing and start using the whole fruit, skin and all. And then, because you are out of ideas, you throw in a handful of the weed that grows by the drying racks, The one with the flat leaves that half the settlement says tastes like soap? What comes up out of the pot is a third smell, one that neither the lime nor the weed has on its own, and it is the smell of the drink, and you would never have found it on purpose. That's the joke buried at the center of the most recognizable flavor on earth. It's citrus peel and a herb standing next to each other in hot water, and the only reason nobody guesses is that nobody would. There's one problem left, and it's geography. The lime is from one side of the world, and the weed is from the other, and no place on earth grows both. Before you can make this a second time, somebody has to move seeds across the world, plant them, and keep them alive for people who will never taste the result. The recipe is 4 ingredients. 3 of them have to travel further than you ever will. So, burnt honey, a whole lime with the rind, a fistful of the soapweed, and water forced full of more gas than it wants, sealed under a crimped tin cap. You open one. It fights the cap on the way out. It bites going down, the way the spring does. And then behind the bite there's the burnt dark honey and that third smell coming up the back of your nose. And it is doing all of this here, in your hut, a full day's walk from the spring, in the middle of winter. Now watch what everyone actually does with it. The chief drinks one, understands the situation immediately, and claims the spring, which is the wrong thing, since the spring has nothing to do with it. But the correction would require explaining the whole process, and nobody is going to be the one to do that. He posts a man at the spring. The man is still there. He is guarding water. The recipe is the actual power, and only you know it, which lasts about a week before it stops being an advantage and becomes a job you cannot quit. You may not travel. You may not be ill. 2 men accompany you now, for your protection, and they are extremely clear that it is for your protection. You have invented the most desirable object in the settlement, and the result is that you are the only person in it who is not allowed to leave. Grack is put in charge of distribution, which nobody planned, and which has made him, once again, the most powerful person here. 2 bottles a person a week. Grack decides what counts as a person. He has a strip of bark with everyone's marks on it, and he brings it to meals. The bottles themselves are made by a man who was, until recently, considered the worst potter in the settlement, on the grounds that his pots were too thick and too round and too heavy. He is now the most important craftsman alive, and everyone has agreed, without discussing it, never to bring up the previous 30 years. He brings it up. He brings it up constantly. He has a phrase he uses, "Too thick, was it?" And he uses it at moments when nobody has said anything at all. The caps are the other thing nobody planned for. Each one is used once. It comes off with a bit of effort and a small satisfying noise, and then it's nothing, and there has never been nothing before. Until this spring, every object a person owned was used until it broke or eaten. So the caps go on the ground, because where else? And they stay. By the second season, the paths between the huts glitter, and a child born now will grow up assuming the ground is supposed to do that. Somebody suggests picking them up and is asked, reasonably, picking them up for what? The bottles come back empty, and this is where it goes strange, because the bottle is the hard part, and everyone works that out at roughly the same moment. An empty is worth something. An empty is worth almost what a full one is worth, because the drink is honey and weeds, and the bottle is 6 weeks of somebody's life. So the empties become the money. Within a season, a man who never made anything, never carried anything, and simply kept every bottle that passed through his hands is the wealthiest person in the settlement, and he is insufferable about how hard he has worked. Podrick's village makes their own. It is worse. It is so much worse that the first honest thing anyone over there has ever said was said with their mouth full, and taken back within the hour. They now describe theirs as drier and more traditional, and they hold a tasting where the two are served side by side, and they lose it, and it changes nothing whatsoever. Their people start crossing the ridge at night to take empties. Yours start counting them. The chief responds by taxing empties, which means Grack now has a second strip of bark. Everyone's teeth begin to go. Nobody connects it to anything. The prevailing theory is the cold, then the moon, then a specific woman. The one man who does correctly work out that it's the drink is ignored, because he has also worked out that illness comes from wet hair and that a particular bird is following him. And once you're wrong about the bird, nobody hears you about the teeth. Podrick loses his front tooth and blames the empties he stole, which he believes were tampered with. He is closer to being right than anyone else, and for entirely the wrong reason. The man at the spring is still at the spring. He has been out there since before the second bottle existed, and nobody has recalled him, because nobody remembers ordering it. He has built a windbreak. He has views now on who may approach the water and in what order, and he enforces them, and people obey, because he is so clearly official about something. His son carries food out to him and has started referring to the post as the family's. When somebody finally explains that the drink has nothing to do with the spring, he will not believe it, and he will be right not to, because by then it will be the only thing he has done. And in the end you tell somebody, not out of principle, out of exhaustion, at night, because it turns out that guarding the most valuable secret in the world is boring. You tell him it's burnt honey, a fruit, a weed from behind the drying racks, and trapped air. 4 things. Any of them could be got by anyone. He doesn't believe you. He thinks you're covering, and he's slightly offended that you'd bother lying to him at this hour. He tells other people you wouldn't say, and the story that goes around is that you refused, which raises your standing considerably. The secret survives being told. It turns out nothing protects an answer like being cheap enough to insult the person who hears it. Subscribe, and next time, drink water. You won't, but next time.